Hey guys, so today I'm here to bring you the Totally Should've book tag. So one thing I plan on doing on this channel is getting loads of old booktube tags that were around years ago and just doing them myself because I never got the chance to do them and I want the chance to do them, okay? I want to have a bit of fun. So you're gonna see a lot of old tags on this channel that you probably haven't seen in a long time, so I hope you don't mind that. So anyway, this is the Totally Should've book tag, and without further ado, let's get straight into the questions. Question 1 is totally should have gotten a sequel. So for this one I chose Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I read this book very recently at the end of December, start of January, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good. Alex and Henry are just so cute. Honestly, I am just still swooning over these two. I cannot stop thinking about this book. It has just really warmed my heart. It made me laugh, it made me cry, gave me all the feels. I'm just so in love with this book and I just would love a sequel because I miss these characters already. I miss Alex and Henry, I miss June, I miss Nora, I miss everyone. Even the minor characters in this book were still fantastic. Like, this is such a good character-based book. It's absolutely brilliant. If I could get a sequel for this, I would be so happy. I know Casey McQuiston is releasing another book this year, but I just wish it was a sequel to this. Even though I'm sure I'll love her other book just as much, but I just don't feel ready to say goodbye to these characters. They just mean so much to me, and this book was just so beautiful, and I really would love if we could get a sequel sometime. So I'm just gonna remain very hopeful. So question 2 is totally should have a spin-off series. So for this one I chose The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. I absolutely worshipped this series when I read it years ago, and honestly it's still a favourite of mine. I've only read it the one time. I definitely am in desperate need of a reread, but I have this fear sometimes about rereading old favourite series of mine just in case I don't enjoy them as much the second time. That's why sometimes I try to not reread series, but honestly I think I would still love this series the second time. It is just beautiful. The characters are so whimsical and amazing and unique, and they all have such big personalities and they're just so much fun to read about, and the romances in this series just top notch. I would love a spin-off series about any of the characters in this series because honestly they're all so brilliant. Honestly, if I had to choose, I'd probably say Thorne maybe should get a spin-off series, but honestly I'd be happy with any of them. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think Marissa Meyer has definitely moved on from this series. I know we did get that prequel novella Fairest, but I don't even want to mention that because it was just such a disappointment. But honestly I just loved this series so much, and I would love if we did get a spin-off series sometime in the future. Question number 3 is an author who totally should write more books. For this one I chose Taylor Jenkins Reid, who wrote Daisy Jones and the Six and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. These books were so different to each other. I read this one first actually and I enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as a lot of people did on BookTube, but I still enjoyed it. But this book, wow, this might be one of my favourite reads of 2020. I absolutely loved this book when I read it last year. It was amazing. I think I read this towards the start of last year, but honestly I just really want to reread it again because it was so good. Definitely an author that should write more books because her writing is so fantastic, and these two books are just so completely different. Even in the style of writing, it's almost like two different authors, but she's just so versatile and her characters are brilliant, her plots are brilliant. I just need more books by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Question number 4 is a character who totally should have ended up with somebody else. For this one I chose The Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas. This is the final book in the Throne of Glass series, Kingdom of Ash. I don't want to spoil this series. I think a majority of people have read this series by now. I could go on and on about this series. I absolutely love it, and it is far from perfect. I will recognise that. It is far from perfect. The lack of diversity is definitely an issue with this series, but I just love this series just because it's a lot of fun and just easy to read. But anyway, the main character, Selena Sardothian, or Aelin, whatever you want to call her, she ends up with a character that I was not happy with at all. I don't want to say who it is just in case I do spoil it for anybody, but I just wish she ended up with somebody else, even though the character I wanted her to end up with actually ended up in a really great relationship with someone else, and I actually really ship those two as well. But Originally finishing this, I would have liked Selena with this particular character, and I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but this is the series I chose for that answer. Question number 5 is a book that totally should have ended differently. There is a lot of books I could have chose for this one, but I decided to go with Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This book is very, very well known. It's a standalone, it's a thriller. I read it I think maybe 2 years ago. Quite recent, like considering how long this book has been out, it was quite a recent read for me. I really enjoyed this book up until the ending. I thought the ending was a huge letdown because the whole book was super intriguing, very, very engaging, and it definitely had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. I just really wanted to find out what was going on, and then when the big reveal happened, I was just so disappointed. I just felt like it was a cop-out. I'm obviously not going to spoil it for anybody, but this book, I just wish it had a better ending, because honestly this book could have been a 5-star read for me. I can't remember what I did give it on Goodreads, maybe 3 stars. It definitely could have been a 5-star read if it had had a better ending. Question number 6 is totally should have a movie franchise. Again, there's a couple of different series I could have chosen for this, but I chose Skullduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy. This is one of my all-time favourite series, and it is never ever mentioned on BookTube, and it makes me so sad because this is one of the best series I've ever read. Also, Derek Landy is Irish and lives in Dublin, same as myself, so that makes me very, very happy, very proud to be Irish. So this series does take place in Ireland, which again makes me so happy because all the places mentioned in this book are places I know or I've been to, so I just love reading that. I just think this series would be a fantastic movie franchise. The only thing is that this book is going to be a 15-book series. We have 13 books out so far. I don't really know if anyone would make 15 movies, but even if we got the first book as a movie and just saw how it played out, that would be amazing. We would definitely need an Irish girl to play Valkyrie Kane. Definitely. I want a lot of Irish actors to be in this if it ever does become a movie. But anyway, this is my choice for that question. I just think that if done well, and if Derek Landy himself could write the script and everything, that would be so amazing. I think it could be a fantastic movie franchise. The next question is totally should have a TV show. So again, a lot of answers I could have chosen. Honestly, even Skullduggery Pleasant would be an amazing TV show if done well, but I went with The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I just love this series. I think it is fantastic. It is super unique. Like, it's so different to any other YA series that you could read. I just think the characters in this are so lovable. Like, Blue herself, the main character, is just amazing. She's so unique, and the boys, the Raven Boys, they're just, you love each of them for completely different reasons. Like, honestly, you just grow so attached to these characters. I think if this series was a TV show with the right actors and a good script, I think it could be a fantastic TV series. The next question is totally should have had one POV. So I'm going back to the past with this one, and I'm saying Allegiant by Veronica Roth. I completely understand why there needed to be 2 POVs in this book, but I just felt that it's been so long I almost forgot her name. I just feel like Triss and Four, both their POVs sounded the exact same. Like, I remember reading this years ago and just thinking, like, I would actually get confused about who was talking because it's like the writing was the exact same for both characters, and I just found it super off-putting because I didn't know who was talking. I honestly would have to scroll back a few pages to check the chapter to see who was actually talking because it just was so similar. So I think that's very disappointing because I think it could have worked with just one POV. But obviously, if you've read this book, which I think most people have at this stage, I do understand why it needed to be 2 POVs, but it is just a shame that they were written so similarly. Question number 9 is totally should have a cover change. For this one, I went with Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout because this is the most disgusting cover I have ever seen. Honestly, I hate these covers. This is the first book in the Look series. I've only read this book, I haven't read the rest of the series, and I don't think I plan to. This was just something I decided to read in first lockdown last year when I just wanted something easy and ridiculous and just some paranormal fluffy romance. So I went with this one. This is basically Twilight but with aliens. So we got Damon Black here, who is an alien. I've actually owned it for years, and I've actually heard really great things about Jennifer L. Armentrout as an author. So I picked this up, read it in like a day, and it was so addictive but so bad at the same time. Anyway, back to the cover. The covers are all hideous for this entire series. I think that's a big reason why I put off reading this for so long, as well as the ridiculous plot. So definitely this series needs a cover change badly. The next question is totally should have kept the original covers. So for this one I went with the Diviners series by Libba Bray. So the Diviners is the first book and I just think this cover is gorgeous. I absolutely love it. And then we got Before the Devil Breaks You, and this is the third book, and they just completely changed the covers. It is such a disappointment because this cover is so basic and boring compared to the beauty of this cover. I really wish the third and fourth book in this series kept this kind of style because these books are just so boring and they just ruin the aesthetic on my bookshelves. I'm not happy with these cover changes, so they definitely should have stuck with the original book design. So the final question is totally should have stopped at book 1. For this one I decided to go with The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. When I read this book I absolutely loved it. I was obsessing over this book at the time. I gave it 5 stars, and then the second book and the third book were both terrible. Absolutely terrible. It was like it was written by a different author or something. It's like he just wrote it in a day. I honestly can't get over how disappointed I was with the second and third book, considering how much I loved this book at the time. And then they made a movie out of this as well, which again, absolutely garbage. Don't watch it. It's just terrible. I know in trilogies it seems to be this thing where the third book seems to always be a disappointment, but with this trilogy the second book was bad too. Like both the second book and third book were terrible. I just wish this book was done as a standalone because honestly it would have been much better off, and I really wish I never read books 2 and 3 because I will forever be upset and disappointed by how bad they were. So that is it for the totally should have book tag. This was a lot of fun. I love doing book tags. I love answering different questions and thinking about my answers, and I'm definitely planning on doing a lot more tags in the future, so I hope you guys stick around and enjoy. If you'd like, please give me a like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a lovely day. Slán live!